Started like any other birthday plan. Nothing extravagant. Just me trying once again to remind him I was still here. 4 years into our marriage, and I couldn't remember the last time he looked at me the way he used to. We had the jobs, the house, the dog, everything we talked about when we were just dreaming. And yet I felt invisible. Not unloved, but unnoticed, like furniture he once adored but no longer saw. He wasn't a bad husband. Tom was polite, dependable, even funny when he remembered to be. But his affection had gone stale. Our conversations revolved around bills, errands, and dinner orders. He stopped initiating anything intimate. I stopped trying because rejection, even subtle, hurts in ways people don't talk about. The night I caught him scrolling through suggestive content on his phone while I slept beside him, something inside me cracked. I wasn't angry, just numb. It was easier to pretend I didn't see it than to ask why. So when his birthday approached, I panicked. The idea of another year slipping by with cold kisses and polite small talk felt unbearable. I wanted to wake us up, shake him, remind him we were more than just teammates under one roof. And in that desperation, a thought crept in, something wild, uncharacteristic, and admittedly a little twisted. What if I gave him the fantasy he never dared ask for? Something that would leave him breathless, disarmed, and maybe remind him what it felt like to want me. I knew what it meant the second I searched. I wasn't naive. Every click, every profile made it more real. I wasn't just planning a birthday gift. I was crossing a line. But I told myself it wasn't cheating. I wasn't doing anything physical. I wasn't replacing myself. I was giving him something I couldn't anymore. At least that's what I clung to. The woman I found was expensive, professional, discreet. Everything about her screamed luxury. And distance. No strings. I planned every detail. The room, the music, the note that said, "Trust me, let go." It felt like a performance, a last-ditch effort to revive something on the edge of flatlining. I told him I had a surprise. Blindfolded him. Whispered in his ear that I'd be right back. He smiled the way he used to. Just for a moment I believed this could be the turning point. I stood outside the hotel room door, hands trembling. My heart beat louder than the silence in the hallway. I wasn't sure what scared me more, that it would work or that it wouldn't. That he'd come out a changed man, grateful, present. Or that he'd come out the same. Or worse, even more distant. But as I leaned my head against the cool wall, trying to catch my breath, I never imagined the truth that would greet me when I opened that door again. I didn't sleep the night before. My mind kept running through every possible outcome. Would he laugh? Be offended? Grateful? I wasn't sure what I was hoping for. All I knew was that the thought of watching him pull further away without trying something, anything, felt worse than whatever consequences this might bring. I convinced myself it was bold, maybe even romantic in some off-kilter way. I told myself it was for us. Booking her felt transactional, cold. She didn't ask questions, just gave rates and rules. She was older than I expected. Confident. Her profile said, discreet, non-judgmental, emotionally intelligent. I clung to that last part like a lifeline. I transferred the deposit without hesitation. It was surreal, like I was acting out someone else's fantasy, not mine. Still, a part of me felt in control for the first time in a long while. I was the architect of this night. The one pulling the strings. The plan was simple. I'd check him into the suite after dinner, hand him a drink, blindfold him, and leave before she arrived. No face-to-face, no names, just an experience. I wrote a note for her to read to him. It was a mix of sensual instructions and emotional cues. Things I hoped he missed. Softness, attention, warmth. I wanted him to feel cared for, even if it wasn't by me. That irony wasn't lost on me. Still, guilt crept in every time I thought about it. What kind of wife hires someone to sleep with her husband? But the guilt was tangled with anger too. I tried for years to be everything. The lover, the best friend, the steady support. And yet it never felt enough. He turned away without saying why. I cried alone more nights than I can count, curled under the covers while he snored beside me like we were roommates. Maybe I wasn't giving him what he needed. Maybe he wasn't capable of saying what that was. Either way, this was my last shot. I watched him that day like I was studying a stranger. Every small laugh, every absent-minded scroll on his phone, every time he didn't notice how nervous I was. It only confirmed it. He didn't see me anymore. So when I slipped the key into his hand and whispered, "Be ready at 8, I meant it more as a plea than a tease. Be ready to feel something. Be ready to want me again." She arrived exactly on time. I didn't look at her face. Couldn't. I just nodded, handed over the envelope, and walked past the hallway mirror without daring to see my reflection. I waited by the elevator, trying to breathe, pretending this wasn't real. Pretending I didn't just pay someone to do what I used to do freely, lovingly, desperately. Part of me wanted to run back and stop it. Another part wanted it to work so badly it hurt. I didn't realize yet that this night wouldn't fix anything. It would only expose what had already been broken. The moment the door closed behind her, time slowed. I leaned against the wall outside, ears straining for any sound. For a while it was quiet. Then I heard the low hum of voices, muffled, intimate. I told myself not to listen, but my body disobeyed. Faint laugh followed by something else. Something too familiar. A sound I hadn't heard in months. Deep, unguarded, like he was finally alive. It hit me harder than expected. I had wanted him to feel something again, but not like this. Not with someone else. Not so easily. I thought it would be awkward for him. Maybe even uncomfortable. But he was enjoying it. Not just going along. He sounded confident. Comfortable. Ease. Like it wasn't new. That thought lodged itself in my throat. I moved closer. Carefully. Slowly. I told myself I just needed a glimpse. Just enough to know. I pressed the door open an inch. What I saw didn't make sense at first. She was facing away. But he wasn't surprised. He wasn't hesitant. He was touching her like he knew her body. Not exploring. Remembering. Every move was too familiar. Too practiced. It didn't feel like a fantasy. Felt like a routine. My breath caught, and before I could stop myself, I stepped inside. He didn't notice at first. Then his eyes met mine, and something in his face shifted. Not guilt. Not shock. Something worse. Annoyance. Like I had interrupted him. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. I demanded an explanation. My voice shook, but I didn't cry. He just stared at me, jaw clenched, then turned to her. She stepped back quietly, gathering her things without a word. No denial. No awkward exit. Just calm detachment. That's when I knew. He already knew her. This wasn't her first time. Not with him. He didn't even try to lie. Said her name like it meant nothing. Told me he figured out the surprise earlier that day. Recognized the name on the envelope from his phone. He said I shouldn't have bothered trying to make up for lost time. That we were past saving. That this was just the last domino. I stood there, frozen, listening to him rationalize how he'd checked out long ago. How he didn't say anything because I seemed happy in the routine. That maybe this was exactly what we both needed. To finally be honest. Honest. That word echoed in my chest like a joke. He had been cheating. For how long I still don't know. But longer than I expected. Maybe longer than I suspected. And here I was, thinking I was doing something daring to revive us, when he'd already buried what we had. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just walked out. Hello. A part of me still hoping this wasn't real. But deep down I knew. This wasn't the night everything fell apart. It was just the night I finally opened my eyes. I didn't go home that night. Couldn't. I walked for hours, letting the cold bite through my coat while my thoughts looped like static. I wasn't devastated. I wasn't surprised. That was the strangest part. It felt like confirmation of something I'd been quietly carrying for years but never had the nerve to say out loud. We were done. We'd been done for a long time, just too cowardly to admit it. The next morning I packed a bag. No dramatic notes. No accusations. Just essentials. He didn't chase me. He didn't ask where I was going. We sent a few cold texts over the next few days. Logistics, bills, keys. No emotion. No reflection. As if everything that had just happened didn't deserve space. And maybe it didn't. Maybe we had eroded so slowly that by the time we noticed, there was nothing left to fix. Friends asked what happened. I told them we drifted. I left out the birthday. Left out the escort. Left out the part where I paid someone to seduce my own husband and accidentally exposed the affair he'd been hiding. Who would understand that kind of logic? That kind of desperation? It didn't sound like something a healthy person would do. But I wasn't healthy. I hadn't been for a while. Therapy helped. Not to forgive him but to face myself. To admit I had clung to the idea of love more than the reality of it. That I ignored red flags. That I made excuses for absence, for coldness, for the way I shrank in my own relationship. And that night, the plan I thought would save us was just a symptom of how deeply I'd lost myself. He tried reaching out weeks later. Not to reconcile. Just to talk. To explain. I didn't reply. There was nothing he could say that would undo what had been done or the choices I made to get there. I wasn't blameless, but I was done carrying all the weight. I started over quietly. A new apartment. New routines. I spent weekends alone, not out of loneliness but choice. I read again. I danced in my kitchen. I remembered what it felt like to enjoy my own company without trying to be enough for someone else. There was peace in that. People think infidelity is about sex. Sometimes it is. But more often it's about silence. It's about the words we don't say and the years we spend pretending we're fine. I thought I was being brave that night. What I was really doing was bargaining with a ghost. I don't regret leaving. I regret staying as long as I did. But even in that there's grace. I learned how far I'll go for love, and where I finally draw the line. He didn't lose me the night I walked out. He lost me long before. And I lost myself somewhere in the years I spent waiting to be seen. The only difference now is I see me. That's the part one finally got back.